Hey, and welcome to the Systems Boutique podcast. I'm Dr. Ramona H. Lawrence. Most people just simply call me Dr. Ramona. I'm your systems stylist and your business operations expert, and I'm here to help you build a high-end boutique style back-end that creates ease and scalability for you without sacrificing the luxury experience your clients absolutely deserve. So if you're a speaker, a coach, a consultant, a course creator, or author who's ready to stop the overwhelm, ditch the tech confusion, and finally streamline your systems and operations, you are in the right place. Each week, I'll bring you actionable strategies, expert insights, and behind-the-scenes business systems and operations insights to help you scale with ease, efficiency, and absolute excellence. So grab your notebook, your favorite cup of coffee or tea, and let's get to work. Welcome to the Systems Boutique, where systems meet style. Hey, welcome back to the Systems Boutique podcast. I am your host, Dr. Ramona, and I am so excited to come back today with a recap of episodes 12 through 22 of the podcast. Didn't you absolutely love the recap of episodes 1 through 11 last week? It was all of the highlights, all of the great things, and I hope that you went back to listen to the full episodes. So here we go with episodes 12 through 22. If you're a brand new listener or you've been with us the whole time, I'm excited to share this with you. So let's dive right in.
When you're thinking about hiring somebody, you're thinking about, okay, I got to give them a salary, I got to give them benefits, all this stuff like that. Number one thing I love to say about books is I don't want to give them no benefits. No benefits required. Books don't need dental and they don't need health care. You're good off the rip. So I love that part of it. But when I say an employee, you got to think about it from the perspective of you have to be able to sell your services. Your book is an opportunity to show what you do, not just tell. The book allows people to be able to see. So it's already a salesperson for you. It's a commercial for you. It's also a lead generator. So when you think about, man, I'm not that good at marketing. Now, I'm not saying you don't need to be good at marketing at all. What I'm saying is you don't have to be as good if you have a book, because a book already has a perceived value in it. So now with the talk of sales is already, okay, I'm positioning. Marketing in the sense of, oh, I can generate leads. Think about going to like a Chamber of Commerce event and everybody else is passing around books, business cards, and you have books. And typically you might need an assistant to come with you and say, hey, come with me to the event and just introduce people to what we do in the company or give them business cards. You don't do that. You go with like 10 books and it's valuable. People come out in a business event, they got like 100 business cards in their pocket. You go and say you got 10 books, you give away all 10, Dr. Ramona, the 11th person is like, can I get one of them? And so a book and being an author allows you to be able to attract all of those opportunities and more.
Wow. So, I've never even thought about the fact that you can give out books instead of business cards. And I think that's brilliant because you're right. Being an author, if you just say you're an author, it just has this level of prestige that people think, because people understand the process, right? They understand that it took time, it took effort, it took some things to actually birth that, as you always say. And so if you did that, you didn't just walk off the street and just throw something together and say, oh, I'm just gonna create some random stuff. Normally you put a lot of time in it. And so I think that that is such a good way to think about generating leads, and not just generating any type of lead, but quality leads. Because when somebody's going to read that book, they're going to be someone who actually is purposeful. Behind every burnt out CEO is a missing D. Okay. So what is a DOO? It is a director of operations. Sometimes in companies, they call it a COO. That is a chief operations officer. And so the O part, the operations, is what so many people, so many businesses are missing. So let's break it down. What is operations? Operations is what happens when you are done with the stuff you're passionate about. Okay. So in our podcast, we have speakers, coaches, consultants, authors, those business owners who are passionate. You are passionate about the things that you are doing. Well, when you get off the stage and you stop talking about the thing that you love to talk about, that you could talk about all day, when you are done talking about your book that you wrote, when you're done talking about the course that you have launched and that is so transformational, what happens in the back end? What happens with the emails that need to get sent? What happens with the financials in your business? What happens when someone needs to be sent a contract? What happens when you're ready to launch? Are you cringing because there's so many different steps, so many different things that you need to do that it just makes you sick when you think about the fact that you have to launch something? What happens in the back end of your business that nobody else can see? That is operations. So what even is operations? Let's think of it like this. Your passion, that thing you love to speak about, your book, your course, that is the driver. But operations, that is the car, that is the GPS, that is the gas tank, that is the air in the tires and the playlist that keeps your vibe going, okay? You have got to have operations to make this engine move. So without it, it's like you're pushing this luxury car uphill, and you don't want to do that. So think about what that means. If you were actually pushing a car uphill, that is why you're tired and you're burnt out. If you don't have the engine to move that beautiful thing up the hill, if you don't have the air in the tires, if you don't have the gas in the car, you are going to struggle. You're going to be worn out. And so that's why we need the operation support. So often when I'm working with a CEO, a business owner, a creative, this wonderful speaker, coach, consultant, I hear all of the ideas. They are floating out there. They're saying, I can do this thing. I can launch this thing. We can start this thing. And they have all of the ideas. But my brain, when they say I can launch this, I'm thinking, okay, here's step 1, step 2. Here's how we break that down. Here's who needs to do this. Here are all the things that need to make this happen, right? I'm making a list. I'm checking it twice, right? And so that is what I do as a director of operations. It takes this idea from the creative, you as the business owner, and breaks it down into ways that can actually translate into the work being done. So if you're launching courses, trying to keep up with client emails, running payroll, updating the website, filling out forms at 11 p.m. for the IRS, and wondering how your life got this way, this episode is absolutely for you. Okay. So here are some signs that you need a director of operations. So let's keep it real. You got a team or a VA, but they constantly ask, what do you need from me? Because there's no plan. What I see is that people often have these beautiful strategic plans. They say, I've had this consultant come in. I've had this coach who's taught me how to do things, but they don't have the idea of strategic prioritization. So what happens is that beautiful strategic plan sits on the shelf. They get it created one time. It has no real connection to the action that's in their business. They have the plan, but there's no prioritization. We don't know what should have gone first. There's nobody assigned to the task. There's nobody to oversee the task being done. And so you have a strategic plan, but no strategic partner and no strategic prioritization and no strategic action. So that's what's missing who cares about your plan if there's none of the rest of the stuff? There's no prioritization, there's no action, there are no things that are there that are put in place to get it done. And so that's what many of you are missing. So that's why you need a director of operations.
I love the idea of seeing women take up space on LinkedIn is because my whole LinkedIn journey, my whole entrepreneurial journey started because I saw women who were actually taking up space on LinkedIn and showcasing their business, showcasing their side hustle. That's what I saw, because I had always wanted to build my business. I had always wanted and, dreamt about owning my own business, having this autonomy, but I never thought it was possible for me. I just kept climbing the corporate ladder until I got laid off, and I went to LinkedIn because I was looking for another job. And then I found all these amazing women sharing about their journey, sharing their business, and it inspired me. It made me believe that, oh, look, there's something I can do. I can actually start sharing about my expertise. And I did that, and somehow I found myself become a LinkedIn coach. So LinkedIn basically like transformed my life. It helped me start my journey of being an entrepreneur. It helped me leave my toxic job, which I was basically losing myself in that place. It helped me quit a long history of toxic workplaces. And I just want to see more women take up their space on LinkedIn, because I'm seeing way too many people who are hiding. They are hiding from not just LinkedIn, they are hiding online. Like, they have so much expertise, they have so much of this magic that they embody, and they're not putting it out there. Nobody is seeing it. Their businesses are not growing because of it. And I really want to help people come out of that hiding place and use LinkedIn to its full extent. I mean, it's a free platform. Let's use it as the best of our capability.
I love that. And I do think so many people are hiding, and they're hiding from LinkedIn. And so as we think about LinkedIn in general, why are people slipping on LinkedIn? They're running to Instagram or to YouTube or to Facebook, but LinkedIn, a lot of times business owners don't go to LinkedIn and they don't use it to its fullest potential. And so tell us why we're slipping on LinkedIn.
I think LinkedIn is intimidating for lots of people. Like, they find it intimidating. And apart from that, that's one, people find LinkedIn intimidating. And two, the platform was originally for like job seekers, right? Like I mentioned, that I myself went on LinkedIn because I was looking for a job. That's what led me there. So lots of people, they still have that belief that, oh, LinkedIn is a place where you go, you update your resume, it's for job seeking. Some people still have that mindset. And some other people, they know that LinkedIn is actually a place where lots of magic can happen, but they are intimidated by the platform, which makes sense because it's a professional platform. And if you are still in corporate organizations, or the word corporate kind of insinuates being a specific way, having a specific dress code, there are things you can't be, there are things you can't say. So people still attach that mentality to LinkedIn, and they don't understand it. It's intimidating. They don't know how to use it. That's usually why I see lots of people like hiding and just going on IG, Facebook. It's like it feels more human, more sociable. That's why I believe lots of people are sleeping on LinkedIn. But what they don't know is that LinkedIn is not a place that is filled with resumes anymore. It's not a place to go to put up your resume anymore. LinkedIn is no longer a place where you have to be a corporate or a professional person. LinkedIn is a social platform. When you're on LinkedIn, you have to be a human, be sociable on a social platform. So people don't know that. That's why they hold back and they go on Facebook, on IG, because they feel it's comfortable. What I love to say is LinkedIn hands you the mic and puts you in the right rooms. So why waste your time on crowded platforms? Like, there's so much you can actually benefit from actually taking advantage of that platform.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that that's what we're all looking for. And we're looking for a space to really showcase our expertise. And so I love the fact that LinkedIn is great for that. And so now that we're saying, okay, tell me more. What about, I want to get on LinkedIn. If somebody only has about 10 minutes and they want to clean up their LinkedIn profile today, what are the 3 high impact sections they need to polish first, and then why?
Okay, I love that question. I love a challenge. Just 10 minutes. So the first thing I would say you should do is check your profile picture. First impression matters, right? Your picture, your display picture on LinkedIn is like the very first thing people will see on your profile. And then the next thing you want to do is work on your headline. So your headline is more like your introductory section of your LinkedIn profile. So you want to highlight your core message, like a summary of the most important things about you and what people will stand to get by having you as part of their network. And then lastly, to ensure you are taking traffic out of LinkedIn, you want to make sure that you actually use your custom button section. So lots of people don't have a feature. It's a bit newer feature that they have. It's more like a link in bio, what Instagram and Facebook has. You can put your most important link. If you have a workshop coming up, the link should be there. It should be at top of your bio. If you have a call that you typically have people book when they come into your space, put that there. If you have a free lead magnet, for instance, put that there. So that space should be for like the most important place you want people to go to right now. There's another section, I think, behind kind of for websites, but this particular section, I like for people to use it to lead out of LinkedIn. So if people just want to come to your profile, maybe they read something short, okay, how do I connect with this person? Maybe you have a newsletter, something that takes them out of LinkedIn. So that's what you should do. So number one, your profile picture, first impression matters. Second thing, your headline, again, first impression matters. And then lastly, that custom link. So you are actually not just building authority, you are already leading people, creating traffic, taking people out of LinkedIn into somewhere you want them to be. So that's a quick 10 minutes cleanup.
So I will say this, I'm a little bit of a mad scientist around my system to post. I'm on 5 different platforms and I have a specific system for every platform. Okay, I have to make sure you guys know that. But all of them start with researching and listening. Researching and listening. I got my ears to the ground trying to figure out what my dream clients are saying, what some of my competitors are posting, and then people are putting in the comments. So I'm reading their comments. I'm really paying attention to all those things. And I'm kind of creating a topic bank, right? Like I'm creating a bank of topics or ideas around the content that I could create. But not every topic or idea is going to be something I do, but I'm definitely paying attention because we share some of the same audiences. So the next thing I go into is like, okay, how am I going to actually put this out here? For the platform itself, I decide I want to do a reel. If it's Instagram, I want to do maybe an image post or some sort of carousel. I might even want to go live, right? I'm in my stories a lot. I sell in the stories. That's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. But I start to brainstorm, okay, how do I want this content to be disseminated? And then the next step is actually creation. Oh my goodness. This is the part where a lot of people fall flat. They will do all this brainstorming, research, and writing. They have Google Docs and notepads full of content. But when it comes down to actually creating it, this is where they fall off. I actually schedule a whole day just to create. I don't do researching. I don't schedule nothing. I just do creation. So that's writing and doing videos or whatever. I'm doing creation. And then another day I do scheduling. That's the 4th thing I do. I schedule. I love using the Systems Boutique. I don't know if I told you this, but I probably did. I have about 8 different YouTube pages, and the Systems Boutique allows me to add all 8 of my YouTube pages, and I can schedule content in the Systems Boutique. I just got to say, clap for the heavyweight champ, you. So once I get your number, it's just a matter of time before we go to third base.
When you have that rich experience, there's so much stuff. I think one of the greatest challenges is figuring out what do I put in and what I don't put in. And I've seen this happen to a lot of people who are coaches, speakers, thought leaders, where they're like, Gio, like I've been doing this for like 10, 15 years. How do I put that into a book and not make it like an encyclopedia? What I tell them is, what's your process look like? You want to try to think of a framework or a process so that way that wealth of knowledge is something that's now organized, because the reality is that knowledge is no longer something that escapes us. Like you can get information everywhere. Now, when you're doing your positioning and you want to be the expert, your expertise is no longer how much you know, it's how much of it that I can retain and actually use. And that's where you having a dialed in process or framework, and then adding stories to go and show how that framework actually works is what you would do with your expertise versus you like, hey, let me tell you how much. This it's not a contest of, well, who knows the most. That's where we get caught up. Right? Hey, well, I got 7 degrees. I got 600 certifications. That's not the point. The point is, can I use what you tell me? So it's tell me the fastest path to getting to the result that I want.
Yeah. And I've noticed that being a professor is that if I try to even talk to my students and tell them everything that I know, then they're like deer in the headlights. Like, what are you talking about? I even get better evaluations when I tell them less because for
Yeah.
them it feels like, oh, I can digest what Dr. Lawrence is saying and not that she's just talking over my head. And I think that that is a little bit about what you're saying in this, is that how do you help people to just digest the information and not just regurgitate every single thing that you
I think
ever
that's the biggest challenge, and I think it's
yeah.
actually the contrarian thought, or like the thing that easily gets missed is that I got the expert. We like the expert knows everything, and I like the expert doesn't need to know everything. The expert needs to know how to solve the problem. So if you can go and tell me how to solve it in 2 steps versus someone who's going to help me solve it in 10, I want the speed of the two. Right. So you don't have to be competing with, oh my gosh, bro, I got to show you how much I know. No, I got to show you how to get to what you want the fastest. And typically it's the less, like you said, less is more. Frameworks allows it to be something that's easily consumable, right? You don't want to give somebody the equivalent of like a mental stomach ache because you just gave them too much to eat, right? Like you want to get them to be like, yo, here's a snack. Oh man, that was good. Let me get some more. And that's what you want with your readers. You want them to dive in, you want more. The book should not be the end. It should be something that takes someone to another destination. So everyone listening to this should feel like, oh my gosh, like I don't gotta give you everything. I gotta come back tomorrow.
They're brand new to grant writing. What's the very first thing that they need to do before they even think about opening even the Word doc to start the grant?
First thing first, they need to get prepared. 3 key points on that. They need to have all the paperwork that they need in order to give the funders what they need, and that'll come up, I'm sure, later in this conversation, exactly what that is. They need to be organized, and they need to know what it is they're trying to accomplish. They need to have their goals and objectives clear. They need to know what their project is about and how it helps the people that they're serving.
Yeah, so I bet a lot of people in your experience are not clear about that. They just see something and they want to jump into that grant and it has nothing to do with their organization or the mission and vision and values of their organization. So is that a huge issue that you see often, that people just don't even know how the grant aligns with what they're doing?
Yes, and people do what I call money chasing. They'll see a grant and they'll say, oh, wow, this is a $25,000 grant. I want to go for it. And it may not be aligned, but then they try to tweak what they're doing to fit the grant. You should never do that. It needs to be a fit as is. And the best way to find that out is to read that RFP carefully.
So tell us what RFP means.
That's the request for proposal. That's what funders put out in order to solicit grants. And they call them different things. Sometimes people just put out a call to action or a call for proposals, but basically they're all requests for proposals. What they're
Okay.
doing is soliciting.
Okay. So y'all got the terminology, the RFP, that's the request. We've got to line things up with what our organization is about. We are not chasing money, right? So all that in the first minute, we've got it. Okay. So Hazel, so many speakers and consultants, they think that grants are just for nonprofits. So can you break that myth wide open and then help us understand what types of grant are actually available for for-profit businesses?
Yeah, and right now there are more becoming available. And while the largest percentage of grants are still given to nonprofits, I have seen growth in for-profit grants. Little did people know the federal government has a lot of agencies that give money to for-profit organizations. What I suggest on that venture is to register with grants.gov so that you can search by what it is you're trying to do. And they'll actually send you lists that seem to fit. Again, the main thing is read the eligible applicant section of the grant, and it'll let you know whether a for-profit is eligible. But also you have foundations, corporations, you even have state and local governments. You have places like, say, FedEx and Walmart. All these people provide grants to different kinds of organizations. And whether it's a fit or whether it's for profit, sometimes you have to dig a little bit to figure out whether your organization is eligible. But in the local community, sometimes you have workforce type grants where they're looking for people who can do workforce type trainings. So if you have knowledge you can share that can upskill or retrain people, those grants are a lot of times open to for-profits as well. But you just have to kind of dig and look. But yes, they are out there. Hopefully you have a detailed business plan. And in my opinion, when writing grants for a for-profit business, that business plan should have a lot of the information in it that you'll need. So preparedness, a business plan, clear goals.
Why do we even need to go from a speech or from just writing a book into having a larger curriculum?
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing is long-lasting impact. I think when I was a speaker starting out, that was my whole mission. How do I create something that can last longer than 45 minutes or a day when I go to an organization? How can I stretch my content? So in thinking curriculum and taking what you have built already, whether it's a couple speaking engagements or even a book, there's a way that you can stretch that information and teach it in a way that can support people understanding the concepts to the most fundamental levels, right? And then in turn, while you're building it out, and what I've learned is I understand it way better after building it out in a curriculum format. I can take my content and simplify it so that a kindergarten kid, a middle school student, or a high school student can understand it, right? And be able to apply it to their life. Now, if you think about that, and then being a parent as well, I learned very quickly that there's differentiation that needs to go on when you're explaining certain things. When you can differentiate your content as a speaker, that's where you make the hugest difference. And I say this often, I get paid more now because I facilitate. I don't speak as much. I don't talk as much because I've learned how to open up that door by being able to allow people to engage in activity through lessons, right? That I've built out. I know what they look like. I know how to differentiate when I go into a room, and I know how to offer what is needed in that space. So as a speaker, if you're thinking about this just open up the floodgates for you to be able to become more efficient and effective in these spaces to be able to offer impact.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about differentiation, because I think that's such an important concept. And I know that when I talk to my children, I have an 18 and an 8-year-old. One is a girl, the 18-year-old, the boy is 8. Their minds think totally differently. They process things differently. So I can't really even explain things to them in the same way, because Gianna is a rule follower. She thinks really, logically, systematically like I do. Jordan is like my husband. He is just a, just creative thinker, just, go with the flow, right? And so I think that we can think about how we even talk to our children and our families with how we do this as far as being on the stage. We know that we need to differentiate the information a little bit so that a number of people in the room actually, the message can land with them, right? And so is that the type of thing that you're talking about when you're saying this idea of differentiation?
No, absolutely. I'll even go further. I recently did this a couple of weeks ago where I went to Utah and I did a small school out there in Utah, and I did a 2-day thing. The first day I went and talked to the staff and the teachers and the administration. I did a workshop with them for a couple hours. The next day I did a whole school assembly from 9th to 12th graders. I think it was 300 kids in an auditorium, right? And the same concept they wanted me to touch on. But I was very intentional as to how to get my message across. Now, I understand in schools, the biggest problem isn't the students, it's the adults in the building. So we have to have those tough conversations to be able to get to them. So it's a shock factor with the adults. It was harder for them, but I made that shock value of like, hey, the reason why you're not able to have these difficult conversations with these students is because you haven't addressed your family life. You haven't addressed your partner. You haven't addressed your friend, that person you haven't talked to for a while. So let's practice that. Let's script that out. Let's go in front of somebody that doesn't know your story, but you're going to practice looking them in the eye and saying that thing that needs to be said.
So feature number 1, you can organize all your contacts in one database. Why is this so important? Okay. Raise your hand if you've got clients in your email, you've got leads in your DMs, and folks you met at a conference or somewhere else where you were out, right? There's somewhere between your notes app and a napkin in your purse. And so you don't want to have all of those scattered leads. Leads are the lifeblood of your business. And so if you have that situation going on, it's really giving chaos, all right? And that's not what you want for the back end of your business. And so the Systems Boutique CRM is saying to you, let's get you out of that chaos, get you out of the group chats, and get you into alignment in your back end. And so we have one clean database, and you can sort your contacts. So here's what you can do. You could say, I met this person at a podcast pitch where I was getting them to come onto my podcast. I met this person and they are a high ticket lead. I met this person and they're a VIP client. Maybe I met this person at Essence Fest. I met this person at my speaking conference. I met this person at a school. This person was really interested in my book. And so I'm going to send them some information that relates to that. So you want all of your contacts to be in one place. And that is what you can do in the Systems Boutique CRM. Now, maybe that doesn't feel so fancy to you, but let me tell you this part. You can even pull up their history. So this is what makes having a CRM so fabulous. You can pull up every email that you've sent them. You can pull up every text, every offer they clicked on. Just imagine prepping for a discovery call with this individual and knowing everything they engaged with without digging through 3 inboxes, Google Drive, your text messages, all of the things that you can find in Facebook DMs. Listen, that is not the way to go. If you can do this all in one CRM, I literally go to the CRM and I can look and I can scroll across and I could say, let me look at the text I sent this person. Let me look at what I said to them on Instagram. Let me look at the emails I sent them all in one place. That is boss behavior, okay? So that is one of my favorite things. My contacts are all in one place, and I can see how they contacted me or how I contacted them all in one place in the Systems Boutique CRM.
I honestly did not realize how scattered and chaotic things were until I got into the Systems Boutique. So I really had to, I think I was about 20% effective. Let me just be real, 20% effective, because when you're pulling from multiple places to make one thing work, it's a lot that goes into it. And so I had a calendar over here. I had my website over here. I had my funnels in one place. I had my offers here. I mean, I had my social media content. I'm doing all of it manually. I'm doing all of it manually. And I have all these different platforms that I'm on. And so I didn't realize how chaotic it was. And I'm okay with using that word today. Y'all. Okay. I did not realize how chaotic it was until I started to work into the Systems Boutique. And I was just like, oh my goodness, this is how I've been living this whole time. So It is a mess.
Same for me, because I had things, sometimes you're writing things down, you're in Facebook, you're in Instagram, you're in email, you're like, did I text them? All these things are in so many different places. And now, y'all, we got 10 email addresses and all this. So you're like, now where did I even email them from? What address was it?
Girl, it was crazy.
Yeah. So as you think about it, when you first came onto the platform, what is the first feature in the Systems Boutique that made you say, wait a minute, that just changed my life? Like, tell me.
It had to be marketing, y'all. Let me tell you why it had to be marketing. And I let Dr. Ramona know how many platforms I'm on. So I have 8 YouTube channels. I have 2 TikToks. I have about 4, maybe 5, and that's shorter now on my Instagrams. And I have like 2 or 3 Facebooks. And if y'all wondering, like, what am I doing with all this stuff? Mind your business. That's for another episode. I think I talked about it in another episode. I had all these platforms everywhere, and I was scheduling on all of them. And I never felt like, I tried Metro Cool. I tried Later. I tried all those tools, but I could never get all of my platforms in one place for a reasonable cost. And don't get me wrong, I'll pay for my product, but it was like in the 200s, 300s to manage all of these platforms. And so marketing definitely had to be the feature that when I walked into it, I think I sent you a DM and was like, girl, I can manage all of my YouTubes, all of my TikToks in here. I was literally mind blown. So being someone who loves creating content and loves impacting her audiences through content, having that feature was my number one selling point. I was like, it's a no-brainer. We are moving everything over here. This is it. So it had to be the marketing.
So one of the biggest ones that I hear a lot of people talk about is, I don't know whether what I'm writing about is going to be any different than what other people have written about before, right? So how do you get to know what has been written without necessarily having to read every single book in your industry? So I think the biggest place is going to a site like Amazon and reading the reviews of what people are leaving. And the reviews that people are leaving, don't read the one-liners, but the 2s to the 4 stars are going to tell you what the book did really well, but also where were the opportunities and where were the gaps. Immediately, you can start to go, and here's what I do with my clients, especially if I'm ghostwriting a book. I'll go and look up all the books in the category, read all the 2s and 4s, and make a document literally listed as the gaps and opportunities on this topic. And then I start to go and say, okay, well, which ones do I want to go ahead and work with? Which ones I resonate with? Which ones are more in alignment with what it is that I do? And then I keep those. So for anyone who's listening to this and is like, I don't know where to start, I don't know, like, I would tell you, jump in the middle, because it feels like work because you're looking at everybody else's stuff, you're eavesdropping. It's almost like being in a contest, but you don't go first, like you get to go second. So you're like, oh, that's what y'all like. Okay, I got it, right? This is the advantage of not being first, right? There's the first mover's advantage. But the second mover's advantage is you get a chance to see what worked and didn't work and then make the thing that's missing. And so that's one of the quick tidbits or hacks that I love doing, is seeing what has been done and being able to find opportunities within what has not been done.
So what I do with all the many tasks, and I'll stop here to go back and tell you about all the different things that I have to do so that you don't think that this is just theory. And so my regular job is a professor. I have all of the things that I have to do for being a professor. I have to do the research, the teaching, the service, all of that, along with running a research center. I'm the director of research for a sickle cell organization. I'm the editor-in-chief of a journal. I have also the family. I have 2 children, the husband, all of the things for church, everything that you all do. And obviously, I own the Systems Boutique. So I am a CEO. I'm a director of operations for an organization as well as multiple clients. So there is a lot to be done. I have really, really taken hold of this juggling technique over time so that I could get all of those things done and stay sane and be a person that's physically fit and healthy and all the things. Back to the juggling technique. Here's what I do. Remember, we just talked about I have one thing that's my heavy lift and 2 or 3 things that are my light touches. So what is a heavy lift and what is a light touch? Well, a heavy lift is something that takes me a lot of time or a lot of brain power, okay? In my business world, it might be that I am preparing a speech or something that I need to do in a consulting agreement. And so I need to plan out the workshop or the different modules that I'm going to do for that consulting. So that would be a heavy lift. It takes me a lot of time and a lot of brain power, okay? What is a light touch? A light touch is something that takes me 30 minutes or less, or I can delegate it. And so you are going to break your task into heavy lifts and light touches. So let's talk about how to do that. The first thing that I do is to write down all of the responsibilities, all of the categories of things that I have to do. And I write all that down. So we call that a brain dump. So that is the very first thing that you do in this process. You have to brain dump everything you have. I brain dump literally the word rest, because you all know you are busy entrepreneurs. You are not going to just rest. You need to tell yourself to rest. If you have a doctor's appointment, things you need to do for your children, whatever it is, put it all down on that paper. Okay. Now, this is the point where you can say, this is a heavy lift, or this is a light touch for me. So if I'm looking down that list, I have brain dumped everything on that piece of paper, and I have probably 20, 30 things on this paper. I say, this one takes me a lot of time and a lot of brain power, so I'm going to call it a heavy lift. This one takes me a little bit of time, or I can delegate it to someone else. I can delegate it to a team member, or I can delegate it to my CRM. So shout out to the Systems Boutique. And so I may be able to just delegate it to the CRM and say, this is something that I can schedule within that CRM and just get it done. Then I like to highlight them. So I will take a highlighter and I say, heavy lifts are going to be blue and light touches are going to be yellow. What happens next? So then I say, here is the one heavy lift I'm going to do on Monday. And then here are the 2, 3, 4 max light touches that I'm going to do on Monday with that heavy lift. Okay. So why do I say just one heavy lift? If you try to heavy lift more than one task, you are going to drop the ball. I know. We are entrepreneurs. We are business owners. We are parents. We have a lot of different things to do. But what happens, and I call this the academic or the business owner shuffle. So we say, I'm going to do all of these heavy lifts in this day. And then you get to the day and then you're shuffling it to the next day or the next week or the next month, and you don't get it done. And y'all, it is like you are setting yourself up for failure. Why would you set yourself up when you know you're not going to be able to get all of that stuff done? So why not organize our schedule in a way that we actually can get all of the things on our list done, and you can have some closure at the end of the day. All right, that's a wrap of our recap of episodes 12 through 22. We are so excited that you have been here with us on the journey from episodes 1 through 22 of the Systems Boutique podcast. Whether you are brand new to the podcast and you are just now tuning in, or you've been here since episode 1, we are so excited to have you here. So head over to thesystemsboutique.com and check out more of our services and all of the greatness of the Systems Boutique. Also, share this podcast with somebody else who you know needs some systems and ops conversations. And we will see you on the next episode of the Systems Boutique podcast. See you later. Bye. All right, my chic CEOs, that's a wrap for today's episode. If you found value in today's conversation, do me a favor. Subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with another star. That's a speaker, a teacher, an author, or a coach who absolutely needs it. And hey, if you're ready to finally get your systems together, let's chat. Head over to thesystemsboutique.com/strategy. to book your systems style strategy call, where we'll map out your perfect business back end. So until next time, keep it chic, keep it systemized, and keep shining like the absolute star you are. See ya.